Keyshawn Davis down in Norfolk, Virginia, winds up missing weight by over 4 pounds, weighs in at 139.3 pounds on his first attempt. It looks like he will not be able, barring some miracle in a second weigh-in, to hold on to the WBO lightweight championship of the world. This was Keyshawn's first title defense against Edwin De Los Santos. This was Keyshawn's play here. He went to Bob Arum, selected De Los Santos for this fight, and now in missing weight, it'll be difficult for him to get credit. I'm going to get to a couple things, and then we'll let Raheem, cook as he always does. But a few things I want to point out, and I don't want to. I didn't see this coming. I certainly didn't think Keyshawn would miss weight, but in being able to cover these guys up close, we see changes in them. They grow, they change through the ups and downs of their careers and life, and I saw Keyshawn, and he's far from the first one I've seen do this in becoming a champion and winning his first title, get a little bit of that hubris a little about him. And I remember before he went to fight Baranchik in New York, he came up to me and said, "I didn't like what you said on the Porter Way about Andy Cruz," and he was playful about it, but serious, but playful. And I loved it. That's the kind of relationship I really want to develop with the fighters, where they feel comfortable telling me, "Hey, I think this is some bullshit you said, and I didn't like it because of this and that and this and that." And I can come back to them and hold my ground and say, "Well, this is why I said it." And we can agree to disagree, or we can have a mutual understanding or whatever. But it's all good. And they speak their piece and I say my piece, and on we go. And then I get ready to interview him for this fight, Raheem, and it was a different energy. It was more like he had the smoke for me which is fine. And I'm sure you go through this too. Like, we wrestle with these thoughts. Is it my ego? Am I being a crybaby? Am I the one getting some of the accountability that these fighters and athletes are throwing their way, and now I'm getting it? And am I being a big baby about it? Am I being sensitive? But oh no, you're on mute, Raheem. You're on mute. What were we gonna say?
What did he say when you said he had something for you? The smoke this week?
So this was heading into this fight, and he starts the interview by saying, no questions about Shakur, because he had tweeted something about Shakur and Richardson Hitchens, and they should get married. And of course I was going to ask about it to clarify it, because we don't fully know what he means by that. He could be talking about Hitchens and Cambosis and not Hitchens and Stevenson and whatever. So he starts off by letting us know, "Hey, this is the stuff that's off the table." And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. We got to talk about the De Los Santos fight and big fights in the division anyway. So whatever, no big deal. But throughout the interview, he's correcting me a lot and saying, you guys that cover boxing don't really know about fighting. You know about boxing, but you don't know about fighting." And just trying to put me in my place in a couple of different areas about Canelo Crawford and Tank and Roach's rematch and all that kind of stuff. And that's all fine, but I'm noticing that shift after winning the title, and I've seen it with other fighters before. And it is what it is. It comes with the territory of being that great fighter. You gotta, it's you against the world, and anybody who's not going along with it, they're the ops and all, and all that. So, but I saw it, and I felt that on Sean's show too, on the Porter Way, when we had him on the couch after he won the title. And that's fine, but I took note of it. And then fight week gets here, and he's talking about no unification with Raymond Murataya. I can only, I'm already paying one sanctioning body. And I thought, oh, that's Floyd Mayweather. Like, that Floyd has been visiting Keyshawn in the gym. And, I could be wrong, but I thought right away, like, that's a Floyd Mayweather. That's game
That
from
was a
Floyd
little bit
Mayweather.
about like what we talked about yesterday when it came to Devin Haney, when it came to people trying to emulate what they think is the way to get your money and to be the boss. As a young man, you are looking for what kind of man you want to be and what patterns you want to follow and what examples you think would best create the life that you want to live. And trial and error. And again, in front of the world, it can happen. I know what you mean when they get that title, they get that little extra shine. Along the way, they may have been humble. Along the way, they may have been willing to listen and answer questions and be challenged. And all of a sudden, you're sitting down talking shit on Twitter, creating beef, saying weird stuff, and now all of a sudden that's off the table. Let me tell you what, man, it's Saturday night's coming up. You're not a fucking superstar, and even if you are, you should be willing to back up what you say publicly. And you really aren't in a position, I don't think, really, to be fair, as the press should be in any sport, including boxing, you really shouldn't be able to take anything off the table. I think as a professional, as a journalist, there's certain things you take off the table yourself based on your own integrity and professionalism. But if a fighter or an athlete has said something publicly or there's a public incident to address, the idea that an athlete can then say, oh, we're not allowed to ask questions about it. You can say no comment. You can even say, I don't want to talk about that. But you can't take it off the table. You can't say, I can't ask a question about it. And especially if it's something that is in the conversation because you created it. There's certain things I won't ask about. If it's personal life stuff that has nothing to do with boxing, I try to find where my line is. But as soon as you tell me I can't ask something, trust and believe that's the first thing I'm going at. And that's what I'm going to start digging on. Because why not? Why not? If in this case, just a power play. He wants to test the limits, wants to see just how much sway he has.
With
Are
my
you
new star
afraid
power,
to
what can I,
upset
how
him?
can, let me flex it on you and put you in
Yeah.
your place, motherfucker, a little bit.
And
Yeah.
see if you'll kowtow to that, if you'll, respect the line that he's drawn. We've seen it all before, but it's a bit disappointing, especially on something so silly. Just defend it or be like, I don't know what I meant by that. I was up late and tripping. That's also an acceptable answer. You don't have to be right. You have to be perfect. But go on. Okay, I'm catching the vibe. I'm catching the vibe. The week,
You've been
the
around the
vibe
block,
of the
so
week.
you
The
you may
vibe
have
of the
seen
week.
the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
So and Keyshawn's been priding himself on the businessman, the businessman. That's his moniker, and it's not just a moniker to him. He wants to make it the real thing, right? And he's ahead of the curve in his development at 13 fights, going to the old man Bob Arum's office and saying, "I want this at this date." And I know he likes that. He likes that he's already picking the opponent and telling his promoter what to do instead of the other way around, right? But I think of it and I'm like, does boxing need another businessman? Mike Tyson said, I was a fighter and these guys are businessmen. And again, there becomes this false binary if you bring this up, like, oh, you want us to just shut up and fight, shut up and dribble. And one day we're punch drunk after giving you a million good fights and our promoters robbed us and you guys wrote a bunch of stories or did a bunch of videos about us. And you know what I mean? It's no, no, I don't
Yeah.
want that. You do have to be a businessman. But what the sport needs is not just that businessman, and this is what I would hope for Keyshawn long term. And this and not and in Keyshawn, a microcosm of fighters going forward is reconcile the Mayweather gospel, right? The being a great businessman with the old gospel, which was be a true champion, fight all comers, be hungry for glory and all. Find the medium ground. And for that's what I hope for Keyshawn Davis. And I think he can do it. I'm optimistic about his future just because he blows weight, still optimistic about everything. And but when he starts
I
talking about
like what you.
yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
go.
like what you call it though. Blowing weight. It's not. There's missing weight. There's not making weight, and then there's blowing weight. Was it 4.5 pounds? Am I correct?
4.3 pounds.
4.3 pounds. That's not even trying to make weight. That's like, I need a real explanation on how you did it, get even close to making weight. That's like, I don't need the extra time to try to get it off. When I showed up today, I knew I wasn't making weight. How long before the weigh in did you stop trying? And what does this mean to your mentality as a champion? Like you talk about
It's your
finding the
first title
balance.
defense.
Well, it's your first. It's your first. And any champion will tell you the only thing harder than winning a championship is keeping it. But boy, it's a hell of a lot harder to keep it if you don't try. Unless there's some other explanation. I don't understand. In your first title defense, you're a young man. This is what is this, your 16th fight? Like you're still
14.
14th. This is the 14th fight. You're still so early in your career. How could you possibly, as a newly crowned champion in your first defense, blow weight by damn near 5 pounds, 4.3 pounds? Was there any explanation? Is there anything offered as a like what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like
I
that's
suspect
more
he'll
than
just
just,
say he's
oh,
outgrown the
I
division.
I,
You know what I mean?
yeah, that,
That's what I suspect he is what he'll say.
they'll say
Uh,
what?
I just suspect he's going to say I've outgrown the division.
Okay. I mean, yeah, okay. I
So
would
did
say,
Devin Haney when he was defending the title against Lomachenko, but he still made weight. Haney had outgrown the division by then, but he
yeah,
made weight.
if you're 4.3 pounds outgrown the division, you know that before you make the fight. That's not something you find out in camp. I mean, I'm sorry, man. That is that's a hard explanation to accept. To be fair, I mean, this guy is what in his what is it mid 20s? What are we
I
talking
think he's
about?
26.
Exactly. He's a newly crowned champion. If you can't even come close to the weight, you know that when you're signing the contract. So I don't believe he just outgrew the weight at 26. You outgrew the discipline, maybe. Or there's another explanation, one that no one's considering, something that he knows that we don't know. But as far as focus and discipline and your responsibility as a champion, what you owe the fans, what you owe your promoter, the professionalism, everything you could possibly say, 4.3 pounds, there's no excuse. There's no, unless you have like a medical condition, which shouldn't have cleared you to fight, or something really outside the box has happened that none of us know anything about. I mean, can you come up with any explanation? Because I outgrew the weight ain't doing it for me. You know,
No, I don't know. I
what could
just
he say that would be acceptable?
um I don't know. I don't know. It is what it is. And I just to take it back to Floyd for a second because Floyd is the greatest fighter of my lifetime. I was born in 91. Him or Roy, whatever. It's Floyd probably. The man's poster or painting alongside Shane Mosley is behind me, right? So I get it. Like he's Floyd Mayweather, but he remember Ryan Garcia, same thing with Floyd Mayweather in his ear. Ryan Garcia said, I blew weight because Floyd told me to. He said, just forget. Floyd even told me the New York rules that if you come in 3 pounds or more over, they can't, by their rules, have you try to make the weight limit on a second attempt. I'm not saying this is why Keyshawn missed the weight, but I'm grasping for straws because when you're 50 and 0 and you've beaten some of the best fighters and you made all the money, it's like, where's the con to his advice? Where's the con to his influence on young fighters? And it's like, well, the last two guys who've been listening to him and been they blew away, you know. I
Wait a
mean,
minute,
oh
Sean.
yeah, they
I just had a terrible thought. I just had a terrible thought. What if Floyd Mayweather is the supervillain? What if he is getting in young fighters' ears to derail them so they could never challenge him as
Oh
TBE?
God,
He
that's
started
some next
corrupting them
level.
early.
Oh man,
I'm not saying that's what's happening.
the subconscious is a
However,
powerful thing.
it could be the case. Could you imagine? I mean, because one thing Floyd is not ever going to accept or even consider possible is that somebody will best him. Certainly not in his
No,
lifetime.
no, that's a fact because to this weekend's the Hall of Fame where Pacquiao's going in, right?
Yeah.
I was at Floyd's induction in 2022. It was an honor to be there. He was there with Bernard and Andre and Roy. It was incredible to be there, right?
Sure.
And Floyd had he had his Michael Jordan Hall of Fame speech, right? Like where he didn't pull any punches. He told you what he really felt. And he finished by going, "When I say I'm TBE, I'm the best there's ever been. I'm the best right now, and I'm the best there ever will be." So to your point, yes, he will not ever accept someone being better than him. He'll
And
say,
part of that
yeah.
might be just a little insurance. Let me see anybody who might even come close to being on a path where they might challenge my record one day. Let me put a little poop in the soup to make sure that early on they get derailed so I can always have something to say where they couldn't possibly be TV. Look what happened on this fight. Let's keep an eye on that. Let's keep an eye on that.
His reaction if Crawford beats Canelo will be very telling to your theory.
Hmm.
You know, if
I
he
mean, every time anybody in boxing does anything major, he finds a way to get in front of the story or make some news of his own or try to steal the spotlight. So that's all the tell that you need. But I mean, obviously, I'm being a little tongue in cheek with this. I'm not accusing him of doing that, but I am also saying that it's interesting. It's a funny one to think about.
it's
It's a
funny.
super villain
But
move.
back to Keyshawn for a moment here. Where I had this in my notes because okay, so two things like so heading in, I acknowledged on Sean's and everything. Hey, he is getting De Los Santos 19 months off, and but you know what? I thought Keyshawn was gonna wind up stopping De Los Santos and having a very strong performance. And if he was gonna do that, which I think he was, the ultimately the narrative was going to be strong performance in Keyshawn Davis's first title defense. Yes, he gets De Los Santos 19 months off a layoff, not with the same momentum De Los Santos had heading into Shakur Stevenson, but ultimately look what Keyshawn did to him and look what Shakur did to him. I was ready to definitely give him that if he was going to go out there and handle his business the way I thought he was, right?
Mm.
So that and but now after blowing weight, it's like even if you
It
go
doesn't
out there and
count.
stop him or 3 or 4, right, right, and how quickly things change. He was the guy. Gustavo Limos blew weight on him in November, and he knocked out Limos. And that performance is what made everyone go, this guy might be the best lightweight in the world. Forget Shakur and Gervonta. Keyshawn might be the best lightweight in the world. How things can change in just 7 months. Now the shoe's on the other foot. And then the week starts off with him sunning young Bull Abdullah Mason. And you know, the young Bull Abdullah Mason has got electricity and dynamite in his hands. The young man has got something special about him. But Keyshawn, I stirred it up, right? I asked Abdullah about fighting Keyshawn because Abdullah's number 2 in the WBO rankings. And I already know what's really going on. Keyshawn's going to move up. I didn't know in this fight he was going to move up, Raheem, but he's going to move up, and Abdullah is going to inherit the WBO title that he leaves behind. Top Rank has done this kind of thing before, but since you are number 2 in the rankings, Abdullah, what do you think of fighting Keyshawn? And he says, I got the appetite for smoke. I want it. So Keyshawn has been getting asked about this since that interview. So you saw what happened. He pulls up on Abdullah in the press conference. And so I'm ready to give you credit for that, like everybody else. Like, oh, you sunned Abdullah. You know, you did that, but now you can't. You might not even be able to make weight to defend the title. You can't follow through on your promise that I will sun him in my next fight if you can't make weight to defend the belt against him. Yeah,
Yeah, in a way, he just lost 2 fights. Like you can't son a guy like that. Call him out, and it seemed like to me for sure Keyshawn got the better of that exchange
oh, for
because
sure.
Abdullah was waffling a bit
Yes.
there, was
His first
non-committal.
response was you know.
And then even afterwards, I've heard him interviewed, and he was like still not committed. Like, well, we didn't make no deal or anything like this. There's no handshake deal,
Right,
and so he doesn't really seem committed to that fight.
right.
With that said, the champion calls you out on the stage. Your first fucking word shouldn't be you know what I mean? Say it and then go back in the hotel and start believing
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it.
yeah.
But to say that, sitting there knowing that the very next day, within 24 hours, you're about to blow weight by more than 4 pounds because he knew when he said it. He knew that fight wasn't going to happen when he said it. So that's a head fake. That's not smoke. You know what I mean? That's like I was at Beyonce last night. All the fans really loved it, and it was that kind of smoke. That's a smoke machine. That ain't the kind of smoke we're talking about. Now there is a question about what exactly kind of smoke are we talking about? Because as an early fighter, as a young man, you can make some mistakes. You can do some things that are not beneficial to your career. We've heard publicly, so I'm not unearthing anything. We've heard Keyshawn talk about his weed smoking, that this is a part of his life that he stopped. I tell you something from somebody who smoked plenty of weed when I was that age. While I was not a professional athlete, I was a professional journalist.
I still do right now. But go on.
It
Yeah.
is not a performance enhancing drug. It's great for recovery.
Not. In
but it's not
video
a
games,
performance enhancing
in
drug.
video games, it's a bit of a performance enhancing drug. But go on. No,
And it's not a drug that likens itself to discipline.
no, it's not.
And I'm not suggesting that he's gone back on his word to himself that he will stop. I hope he has. But it's the kind of thing that indicates a lack of discipline early in the career of a professional athlete, knowing that that is taken away from your performance and can give you the munchies. This could be a result of a really terrible case of the munchies. Listen, I'm having a little fun with this,
Of
but
course,
Sean,
of course.
something's deeply wrong in your first title defense if you're blowing weight by more than 4 pounds. And I need to understand what the explanation is. I'm not saying that there's no explanation. I just can't think of one. And I would love to hear what it is. If it's anything other than I didn't try, I didn't care. I'm moving up and I'm going to vacate this title whether I win or lose. So I'm just going to take a 4.3 advantage and pretend like I want to fight Abdullah Mason next, knowing that's not going to happen, and just keep it moving. Maybe that is the mentality of Keyshawn Davis, and maybe that is this young fighter mentality that can be whispered in your ear by Floyd Mayweather. I don't know, but I do need to hear something that makes sense because if I don't, then I'm just going to assume that this is just a piss poor lack of discipline.
For De Los Santos, what makes it more disappointing is I suspect he had a lot of weight to lose in a short time period, having not had a fight scheduled in 19 months. I talked to people within boxing. Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if he had to cut a lot of weight in a short time. Um, De Los Santos said, that he's fired up about this and all that. Is he cooked tomorrow night, Raheem, or do you think this galvanizes Edwin De Los Santos?
He was an underdog to begin with.
Yeah.
Now he's fighting outside of his weight class. He's 19 months layoff. I mean, if he's not cooked, he's certainly on the grill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's got it ain't getting no easier. Motivation ain't gonna turn the corner. He better hope that this is not only a lack of discipline when it comes to training to make weight,
Right.
but maybe a lack of focus from Keyshawn Davis because he's going to need all the help he can get come Saturday night with that weight indifference, that layoff, that disparity in talent. Really, it's going to be a very very high hill to climb, and it just got a little taller and a little steeper. The backpack that he's carrying got a little heavier. So no, this is not good news. And he's also a fighter that's not in a position to call the fight off. It's a pretty shitty move from a champion to do to a challenger. You know what I mean? Like, I I don't see where this helps him at all. But again, if it's an indication of something deeper, something more problematic from Keyshawn, then maybe on the night he becomes champion. Maybe on
I,
the night it something else surfaces that is indicative of this being a deeper problem. And you know, anything can happen in boxing, but boy, oh boy, I think I, I think it's a shitty thing to do to everybody, and it's going to make for a tough night and a fight that Keyshawn is likely to win, but gets no credit for. And what do we take from that? It's a I don't know. I would like to hear the explanation. I really think he owes an explanation, a serious one, not some nonsense. Like, let us know what it is.
well, my flight tonight leaves at midnight for Norfolk. I will be in the building and I will check in back with you Sunday morning to see what we get Saturday night.
Yeah, tell me what it looks like to your naked eyes. I trust your eye. You gotta let me know what's the real.
Let's just hope he doesn't whip my ass over this video, please. Let's hope that. But
That's why I'm not going to Norfolk.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
gonna
on my
save
own.
a
Yeah.
range. I'm way out of range.
All right. Later, Raheem.